Hi, Andy XL back with another podcast. Looking forward to the upcoming Premier League season. In part one of my preview, I gave you the teams I thought would finish between 20th and 6th. So in part two, I'm going to have a look at the three teams I think will finish 5th, 4th, and 3rd. And let's start with the team I have slated for 5th position, and that's Manchester United. Michael Carrick did a really good job last season getting United back into the Champions League, courtesy of a third place finish with 71 points. But last season was somewhat of a down year for Liverpool, Chelsea, and Tottenham. And with all three of those teams likely to improve next season, repeating that third place finish will be tougher this time around. And it'll also be tougher because last season they didn't have European football to cope with and will do next season. And that alone could cost them up to 9 points. Will they be better, the same, or worse than they were last season? Well, as I said, they will need to be better to get the same points tally or more than last season. The same would see them drop to 5th, 4th, or 5th. Worse could see them even fall out of the top 5. Casemiro and Jadon Sancho have gone from last season, but in come Andre Santos and Yuri Tillemans, so on paper they should be better in midfield as a result. And they also have Marcus Rashford seemingly returning to the Old Trafford fold too. They do have a solid defence, but not a great one, and there is no change to that unit apart from maybe getting Matthias de Ligt back from more available for this, which could be big for them. But they still look likely to concede around 50 goals, maybe a few more if the European campaign takes its toll on some of the older members of this unit. Up front, they might hope for improvement next season. Benjamin Sesko, Matheus Cunha, and Brian Mbeumo had 32 goals between them last season. Sesko being a particular threat off the bench. Those three need to provide the extra goals needed for United to stay in the top four next season. And Mbeumo should be a 15 to 20 goal a season guy, and they would hope for similar from Sesko. And Cunha averaged 14 to 15 goals a season whilst he was at Wolves. If all three got around that level, that would be a massive boost for United. If two of them did, it would be a boost. Only one of them would improve them slightly, maybe keep them where they were. But if none of them improves, that could be trouble for them. And again, European football may reduce the number of Premier League games those guys play, which means United's finishing position next season, I think, may be pretty much down to how much improvement in front of goal they get from those three, and maybe Rashford too. I actually think any improvement will be offset by the extra workload of the Champions League, and with the likely improvement coming from the likes of Chelsea and Tottenham in particular, that could see United lose around 6 points next season. And I think that season finish on those 65 points and probably makes them favourites to finish 5th overall. So let's move on to the team I have now thinking is going to be finished 4th, and that is Liverpool. I think this is going to be really close between Liverpool and Chelsea for 4th place. Profits. Um, let's have a look at Liverpool then. So profits from most slot machines are generally short-lived, and that certainly proves to be the case for Liverpool last season. Arne Slot has paid the price, and now Andoni Iraola takes the big step up from Bournemouth to take over the hot seat at Anfield. Liverpool has spent £300 million on Alexander Isak, Hugo Ekitike, and Florian Wirtz in recent off seasons. Isak and Ekitike made a combined 42 Premier League appearances, only 29 of them from the start due to injury last season, and Wirtz was inconsistent at times. Ekitike is likely not to feature until the new year as he's injured again. Having invested so much in these three, what return they get on that investment next season is going to be one of the keys to how Liverpool perform in the Premier League. Mo Salah, Andy Robertson, and Ibrahim Konate have left this summer, with Jeremy Jacquet, Ronald Araujo on loan, and Victor Munoz coming in. Munoz has been a left-sided player prior to joining Liverpool, and the Reds already have Cody Gakpo and Rio Ungamoa who have operated on that side. So it seems likely one of them, maybe Ungamoa, moves to switch sides to fill the void left by Saka, and Gakpo is the subject of transfer speculation. Xhaka is a next generation replacement for Konate, and with Robertson having left, Liverpool still look a bit thin in terms of depth in their back four, although the addition of Araujo on loan helps them in that area. Their starting back four could well be the likes of Jeremy Frimpong, Xhaka, Virgil van Dijk, and Milos Kerkez until Connor Bradley makes his comeback from recovery. What happens if any of them gets injured? Well, like I say, they're sort of addressing that now, but they still look a bit thin. Last year, they used midfielders such as Curtis Jones, Wataru Endo, and Dominic Szoboszlai even were all drafted into defensive roles due to the lack of cover in that area. That cannot happen again this season, especially regarding Szoboszlai, who is a key player for Liverpool in midfield. Joe Gomez, Costas Tsimikas, and youngster Giovanni Leone, who is another long-term injury victim, look like the backup options. So centre back in particular looks like an area Liverpool cannot afford many injuries at, if enough to avoid being badly depleted in that area. And given that this will be Xhake's first season with the club, it's still an injury to Virgil van Dijk could still be devastating as he's the rock they build on at the back there. But get that attack fit and firing, and they should certainly improve their offensive output and be amongst the deadly attacks in the league after the new year when they get Ekitike back. That could bring them 10 to 12 extra goals, maybe, but given that Ekitike is out, that might be less, sort of more like 6 to 9 extra goals from last season. And that could bring them an extra 6 to 9 points, maybe even 10 to 12, as long as that defence does not suffer injuries. And the lack of depth there has to be a big concern, which is why I would take 5 to 10 points off that game. So I can see Liverpool getting 10 more points than last season, which would take them to 67 and give them a chance of finishing either third or fourth. They just need to keep their fingers crossed that Van Dijk does not get injured, because that could turn things south very quickly. So let's move on then. Sorry, I'm still struggling with my keyboard a little bit here to get onto my next piece about the team I think will finish third. So bear with me a second while I have a few editorial issues. Right, the team I think will finish third, and I've been very impressed with them as they've had a strong pre-season, is Chelsea. Last season was the poorest season that Chelsea have had in a long time, finishing 10th on 52 points. And as one of the traditional Big Five, what chance have they got getting back into the top five next season? Well, they have not been shy with the checkbook. Morgan Rogers is the big splash move. Fullback Marco Palestra, right wing Giovanni Quenda, and striker Emmanuel Emega all add to the youthful approach being adopted by Chelsea's recruitment team. Although they have added experience now in the likes of Jordan Henderson and Danny Welbeck, who may be as important off the field as on it in terms of bringing some maturity to this squad. Marc Cucurella and Andre Santos have left, and we may see more comings and goings in the coming days before the transfer window shuts. But there are plenty of questions about their additions. Firstly, where will Morgan Rogers play and how will that affect Cole Palmer? Effectively, Chelsea have two of England's best young number 10 prospects on their books now. Both are playing just off the striker. So will one play on the left side and the other right to get both into the starting lineup? Quite possibly. Who is the striker? João Pedro, Liam Delap, Emmanuel Emega? Well, right now, it looks like João Pedro's taking a firm grip on that position. And if both Rogers and Palmers are going to start, what does that mean for the wide men Pedro Neto, Esteval, Giovanni Quenda and Jamie Gittins? Neto, Esteval and Quenda are all right-sided, leaving Gittins as the only left-sided option. Fitting two wide men, both Rogers and Palmer, plus a striker, only leaves five spots for the defence and the centre in midfield. So what does that mean? What does the arrival of Palestra mean for Reece James is another question. Does he move into midfield? If James goes into midfield, he would join Moises Caicedo, Romeo Lavia and the possibly transfer-bound Enzo Fernandez in competing for those starting roles. If James stayed at fullback, then it is James or Palestra at right back, which leaves Malo Gusto as being surplus to requirements. And with Cucurella gone, who plays left back? Gerald Hatto, Levi Colwill? So many questions. Or are we looking at possible wing-back scenario, as new head coach Alonso has shown a liking for in the past, where Hatto plays left wing-back, James Palestra or Quenda plays right wing-back, Caicedo and Hernandez or another Hernandez replacement playing central midfield, could be Reece James, with Palmer and Rogers playing off the striker. If so, that would leave room for three centre-backs. And Chelsea certainly have plenty of centre-backs even after the departure of Trevor Chalobah to choose from. Tosin Adarabioyo, Benoit Badiashile, Levi Colwill, Wesley Fofana and Josh Achimpong, to name but five. How this all fits together is going to be intriguing to say the least, and there are going to be some pretty big egos and salaries sat on the bench for sure. So how do you keep a happy camp and not see discontent sour the dressing room atmosphere? Well, that's where the likes of Henderson and Welbeck may become really valuable. Well, and it'll also be the job of new head coach Xavi Alonso, and he will have had plenty of experience in dealing with egos at Real Madrid, although that did not go that well for him. Knitting this pool of undoubted talent together is going to be a real challenge for Alonso in his first season, and with the money spent on this squad reaching astronomical levels, at some point a return on that investment needs to be seen. Getting back into the Champions League may be a minimum requirement given that investment, so the pressure is on Alonso to deliver in year one. Indeed, the fans may look at the depth of quality available to the manager here and expect them to compete to win the Premier League from day one of Alonso's reign. Maybe not win it, but be in contention to do so come the second half of the season. So the bar is high. Can Alonso and this squad get over it? Left side is still a concern here. Replacing the outstanding Cucurella is a big task for whoever is asked to do so, and Gittins looks like the only wide left option in this squad right now. How they get a front three to gel and work together from the talent they have available is a nice problem to have, though. And they've still not addressed the goalkeeper issue. How many Chelsea fans will be looking at Robert Sanchez and thinking we've got one of the best goalkeepers in the Premier League? So all is good there. Well, not many would be the answer. There is surely just too much talent at Chelsea for this to fail to excite, but whether they can deliver levels of excellence on a consistent basis is my doubt regarding Chelsea. Some weeks they're going to destroy teams and look unbeatable. Other weeks, and particularly against the very best teams, they may struggle to dominate as they might wish to and look ordinary as a result. And on those occasions, I'm not sure they have the same level of quality in defence and in goal to win the tough battles against the best in the league and when things do not go to plan offensively. The additions of Rodgers and Xavi Alonso has to improve this team, but by how much? They need to improve by 15 points or more from last season to get into the top four and ensure Champions League football. 10 points or more would probably be enough for a top five spot. If all this clicks and comes together early in the season, confidence levels could soar and they may even improve by up to 20 points. If it does not click, we may see even that they can struggle not to even make a 10-point improvement. But the pre-season's been very good, so the indicators are positive at the moment. So looking at Chelsea, this is a tough one to call. And I think Chelsea are pretty much the hardest team to predict how they will do in the Premier League next season. But they do have so much attacking talent available to them that I do see them doing much, much better than last season. In that campaign, they won 14, drew 10, and lost 14, scoring 58 and conceding 52. With the defence arguably, possibly, maybe weaker than last season, and as a result of losing Cucurella, they may still concede a similar amount to last season. Although they may have more possession next season, taking pressure off that defence, but they should score far more. They scored roughly 1.5 goals a game last season. If that went up to 1.75 goals a game, that would see them score about 10 goals more than last season, which could turn 5 of the draws into wins and 5 of the losses into draws. That would mean their record next season would be 19 wins, 10 draws, and 9 losses, scoring 68 and conceding 50. That would give them 67 points and put them in contention to finish between third and fifth. But I have them finishing above both Liverpool and Man United, as I think this is going to work out well for them. So I think they're the team to watch in terms of excitement this season, and I think a third place finish is definitely on the cards for them. So that's my third, fourth, and fifth, which if you've watched both podcasts, you realise just leaves reigning champions Arsenal and Manchester City to look at. Now I think they're going to finish first and second, but which way round? Well, you'll have to tune into part 3 to find the answer to that. So that's this one done for me. I'll get back onto working on the last one, and then I'll get looking at the preview of the first round of games this weekend. So tune in for those very soon. See you later.